No form of online content is going to be able to replace actual, individual psychotherapy. Even though there is potential in helping with subclinical symptoms and prevention, you should always consider seeking professional help when noticing similarities to bespoken symptoms. The severity of these syndromes varies with the underlying individual factors. So if it is something that you are struggling with for some time now, it is always recommended to seek professional help. As long as there is any sort of negative personal impact due to these symptoms, don't be afraid to seek help. This sort of disclaimer will be necessary for every video where I talk specifically about any sort of symptom which might be related to mental illness. Wanting to build a career in the field of treating mental illness comes with a huge responsibility which a lot of people aren't aware of when making similar content. That is also part of the reason I'm going to use the possibility of being anonymous for a while. That doesn't mean that I'm not 100% standing behind everything I provide here. I feel like the whole self-improvement community is unaware of the responsibility it carries in dealing with actual mental illness. I'm trying to be as honest and authentic as I can be when providing this sort of content. Everything I am going to put out there will be with the goal of helping other people with any sort of mental struggles they might face. Everything I do, I'm doing to the best of my knowledge and belief. Having said that, this isn't the video that I wanted to upload at this point in time. Out of given circumstances, I felt the need to talk about this topic first before just continuing like I had imagined. For the sake of coherence and being authentic, I want to talk about something I struggle with, which often influences the process of making these videos. There is a sad correlation between me being in a bad place mentally and having the time and energy to focus on these videos. So I think it is a good time to take this as an opportunity to offer some help in this regard. I'm going to talk about something which I feel like a lot of people can relate to. In my personal case, I have a clear idea on what the factors contributing to these symptoms are. As someone studying in this field and being the closest anyone can ever get to my inner workings, I feel confident making these assumptions. However, if you are not someone studying or working in the psychiatric field, you might not be able to correctly assess the severity of these symptoms accurately and should always consider seeking professional help when being able to relate symptoms I discuss in my videos. I am intentionally not associating these symptoms with any psychiatric disorder because they might be able to occur as part of different syndromes. Have you ever heard someone say that they cannot be alone with their thoughts? I feel like this is something that a lot of people can relate to. The first time I heard someone say something like that was years ago, and at that time I couldn't relate to that at all. But nowadays I think I know what people are talking about when stating something like that. In other videos, I talked about how nowadays there is no need to be alone with your thoughts anymore. There is such a wide variety of ways to instantly stimulate yourself in any way, shape or form. I'm going a little bit off track here, but I feel like a lot more people suffer from this problem than they know because they just aren't regularly confronted with a situation in which they are alone with their thoughts. Might be worth to try out to see if it is something you struggle with. But I also have the feeling that regardless of how hard you try to avoid these situations, it will catch up to you sooner or later. At least this is what I have experienced. What I also noticed was that being aware of this unhealthy amount of stimulation can make it even worse. Comparing yourself to others on social media or consuming unhealthy goods can make you feel even worse than before. In this video, I'm going to focus on what happens and some advice in dealing with this problem. Future videos shall shine a light on what causes this symptom. So what happens when you are alone with your thoughts? If being alone with your thoughts is equivalent to doing nothing intentionally, there is a brain network being active in these states. Don't worry, I will keep it shallow with the neuroscience for today. It is called the default mode network and is associated with daydreaming and any sort of self-related thinking, to keep it simple. In patients with depression, it could be found that this network is hyperactive and more often activated in comparison to healthy people. This often results in rumination. So it is likely that people who are struggling with being alone with their thoughts find themselves ruminating. Even though I just associated this symptom with depression, I have good reason to not just say that people who have this problem are depressed. I will go more in depth in other videos, but there is a possibility of this symptom being subclinical or reactive as a result of other disorders, and many more ways of depression being caused by different circumstances, which is why I wouldn't just generalize based on this one symptom. So what is the problem with rumination? In rumination, thoughts are constantly revolving around certain topics and problems without finding solutions. Thoughts that you might know which are typical for this problem are, for example, I am not good enough, I'm a failure, nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, I won't be able to succeed in life, and many more, which you can probably think of more fitting for yourself than I do. But even if you can literally find valid, believable arguments against these negative statements, your mind will not let you go. I think this is due to the possible hyperactivity of the default mode network. I have been facing similar rumination in the past days, which usually occur after intense studying phases. I will talk about this more when doing the other videos about depression genesis. I am someone who deals with his problems in a more cognitive way by rationalizing my problems. But as I already hinted at, this doesn't work when facing this type of rumination. So facing these thoughts head on is a fight you cannot win. When I am finally able to realize that I am fighting a war that I can win, there are a few things I do to get out of this bad state of mind. Number one goal is to avoid these thoughts catching your attention and send you spiraling down into this dark hole of self-hatred. If you know that this is just a phase, like it is for me, distraction might just get you through this until you find yourself in a more healthy environment. But if this is something more resistant which occurs more often, you might want to try to devalue these thoughts. Something which is a really common theme in psychology is to learn that you are not your thoughts. Something very relevant for understanding and dealing with intrusive thoughts and obsessive compulsive disorders. But the best method to handle this rumination in a subclinical manner is mindfulness. It could be shown that meditation actually decreases the activity of the default mode network and will help you experience your thoughts without following them down the spiral, lowering their personal relevance and impact. If meditation isn't something you have ever done before, it is actually easier than you might think. I will be making a video about it soon, which will be linked in the description, but I will also give you a quick guide. Mindfulness is the art of directing your attention purposefully on the present moment and without judgment. In practice, this means that you want to train your attention to the point where you can simply experience everything that comes up without having any expectations or opinions. Like a lot of other things, meditation is something you will become better at when practicing. Meditation or mindfulness will be one of the most beneficial habits when it comes to mental health, which I will dedicate a lot of videos to in the future, so stay tuned for that. I hope this video could help you out at least a little. Let me know if my take on this was relatable for you in any way if you are struggling with your own thoughts. As said in the beginning, I can only help with subclinical symptoms and prevention. Don't be afraid to seek professional help if you struggle with these symptoms.